Sahan Navavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Aditamastu Mavidvisha Vahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all thy beloved children everywhere. This is our prayer. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Shanti. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Tuesday evening reading and discussion of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. There is no document in the history of the world's scriptures that is the equal of this document, because it was deliberately contrived and left for us by the Master himself for our instruction. He worked with him to offer him the material that he took home in the form of notes, and he actually copy edited the book with him, though he had been gone from the body for decades. So this is the promise of the Master, that he is with us in his subtle form. So, Haima, please tell us where we are.
Sure, Shankara. Namaste and good evening, everybody. We are on page 89 on PDF. So that'll take you back a few pages back in the book. It's about Hanuman's devotion to Rama. That's the topic today. That's where I'm going to start. The conversation drifted to Hanuman, whose picture hung on the wall in the master's room. Sri Ramakrishna said, just imagine Hanuman's state of mind. He didn't care for money, honor, creature comforts, or anything else. He longed only for God. When he was running away with the heavenly weapon that had been secreted in the crystal pillar, Mandodari began to tempt him with various fruits so that he might come down and drop the weapon. But he couldn't be tricked so easily. In reply to her persuasions, he sang this song. Am I in need of fruit? I have the fruit that makes life fruitful indeed. Within my heart, the tree of Rama grows, bearing salvation for its fruit. Under the wish-fulfilling tree of Rama, do I sit at ease, plucking whatever fruit I will. But if you speak of fruit, no beggar, I for common fruit. Behold, I go, leaving a bitter fruit for you. As Sri Ramakrishna was singing the song, he went into Samadhi. Again, the half-closed eyes and motionless body that one sees in his photograph. Just a minute before, the devotees had been making merry in his company. Now, all eyes were riveted on him. Thus, for the second time, M saw the master in samadhi. After a long time, the master came back to ordinary consciousness. His face lighted up with a smile, and his body relaxed. His senses began to function in a normal way. He shed tears of joy as he repeated the holy name of Rama. M wondered whether this very saint was the person who a few minutes earlier had been behaving like a child of 5. The master said to Narendra and M, "I should like to hear you speak and argue in English." They both laughed, but they continued to talk in their mother tongue. It was impossible for M to argue any more before the master. Though Ramakrishna insisted, they did not talk in English. 5 o'clock in the afternoon, all the devotees except Narendra and M took leave of the master. As M was walking in the temple garden, he suddenly came upon the master talking to Narendra on the bank of the goose pond. Sri Ramakrishna said to Narendra, "Look here, come a little more often. You are a newcomer. On first acquaintance, people visit each other quite often, as is the case with a lover and his sweetheart." Narendra and M laughed. "So please come, won't you?" Narendra, a member of the Brahmo Samaj, was very particular about his promises. He said with a smile, "Yes, sir, I shall try." As they were returning to the master's room, Sri Ramakrishna said to M, "When peasants go to market to buy bullocks for their plows, they can easily tell the good from the bad by touching their tails. On being touched there, some meekly lie down on the ground. The peasants recognize that these are without metal and so reject them. They select only those bullocks that frisk about and show spirit when their tails are touched. Narendra is like a bullock of this latter class. He is full of spirit within." The master smiled as he said this and continued, "There are some people who have no grit whatever. They are like a flattened rice soaked in milk, soft and mushy, no inner strength." It was dusk. The master was meditating on God. He said to him, "Go and talk to Narendra, then tell me what you think of him." Evening worship was over in the temples. M met Narendra on the bank of the Ganges and they began to converse. Narendra told M about his studying in college, his being a member of the Brahmo Samaj, and so on. It was now late in the evening and time for M's departure, but he felt reluctant to go and instead went in search of Sri Ramakrishna. He had been fascinated by the master's singing and wanted to hear more. At last, he found the master pacing alone in the Nat Mandir in front of the Kali temple. A lamp was burning in the temple on either side of the image of the Divine Mother. The single lamp in the spacious Nat Mandir blended light and darkness into a kind of mystic twilight in which the figure of the master could be dimly seen. M had been enchanted by the master's sweet music. With some hesitation, he asked him whether there would be any more singing that evening. "No, not tonight," said Ramakrishna after a little reflection. Then, as if remembering something, he added, "But I'm going soon to Balaram Bose's house in Calcutta. Come there and you will hear me sing." Yam agreed to go. "Master, do you know Balaram Bose?" M. No, sir, I don't. Master, he lives in Bospera. M. Well, sir, I shall find him. As Sri Ramakrishna walked up and down the hall with him, he said to him, let me ask you something. What do you think of me? M remained silent. Again, Sri Ramakrishna asked, what do you think of me? How many annas of knowledge of God have I? I think one anna was like a one nickel or something, Brother Shankara. I remember I grew up with annas and pies, so I forgot. It's been a long, long time.
Yes.
It's almost like a nickel. One
Yeah.
nickel is one anna, something like that. I don't understand what you mean by annas, but of this I am sure. I've never before seen such knowledge, ecstatic love, faith in God, renunciation, and Catholicity anywhere. The master laughed. M bowed low before him and took his leave. He had gone as far as the main gate of the temple garden when he suddenly remembered something and came back to Sri Ramakrishna, who was still in the Nath Mandir. In the dim light, the master, all alone, was pacing the hall, rejoicing in the self as the lion lives and roams alone in the forest. In silent wonder, M surveyed the great soul. Master to M, what makes you come back? M, perhaps the house you asked me to go to belongs to a rich man. They may not let me in. I think I had better not go. I would rather meet you here. Master, oh no, why should you think that? Just mention my name. Say that you want to see me. Then someone will take you to me. M nodded his assent and, after saluting the master, took his leave. That's the end of that particular topic, Brother Shankara.
And they actually became very dear friends.
Yeah.
Rose and M. They became very, very dear friends as time went on. And M spent a great deal of time at Balaram's house, as did the master and Swami Brahmananda. It became one of the key places for the master's darshan in Calcutta itself. In 1999, you could still freely visit that place. It has since been come under the ownership of the order, so there are probably some protocols now about visiting. But when I went in 1999, you could simply go and sit right on the spot where Sri Ramakrishna sat or where Raja Maharaj sat.
Brother Shankara, this is Jeff. I have a question.
Yes.
If M was the headmaster of a school, I would think that would be a respectable member of society. And so I was wondering what made him think that he wouldn't be allowed entrance at the house of a rich person.
Well, the people who ran the rich person's schools were still their servants. He may have been the headmaster of a school, but it wasn't his school. It belonged to Vidyasagar. And so he wasn't his own man, so to speak. And so he was very humble about his position. But Sri Ramakrishna said, oh no, when you come to Balaram's, just mention my name. They'll bring you to me. And that, of course, was true. Balaram. He didn't, he made no caste distinctions, no creed distinctions, as long as you were seeking the master he was most happy to have you come to his home. So M was just simply being appropriately and from his perspective auspiciously humble when he said he thought he wouldn't be welcome. And there were doubtless many homes where he knew where that would be the case. If he came and presented himself, they would say, "Who are you that you should come here?" There was a great deal of class and caste distinction in those days, in the master's time in Calcutta.
It was like that everywhere, Brother Shankara. Headmaster was not a very rich person, definitely not. And M's doubt was very appropriate. I could see why he was doubting whether they would open because usually rich folks will have a gateman, security guard, gateman, watchman, all these people, they have to let him in. So now Master answered that if he says his name, then they would let him in. That was very...
And because he had instructed Balaram
Mhm.
to tell his security people, if they mentioned me, admit them.
That's right.
But you're right, M was being very appropriate
Very,
when he was being humble about his status.
yes.
So gated communities, even back then.
Oh, very much so.
Rich
Oh,
people only. Only rich people had the gated houses, like guards and watchmen, extremely wealthy people.
it was part of the colonial,
Colonialism, right?
yeah,
Yes.
the rich English.
Mhm.
My goodness, you had to have a piece of paper
To
uh, to be admitted to one of those houses.
Yes.
You had to have a letter of introduction that said there was some reason for you to be allowed entrance.
Thank you.
They were quite overbearing, the British colonialists.
Thank you for your insights on that.
And so many of the rich people of Calcutta, to one degree or another, emulated them, or maybe they would have lived that way in any event, as you said, in gated communities, gated homes. Anything else from anyone? All right, dear, please read on.
Next topic is in the company of devotees. March 11th, 1882. Master at Balaram's house. About 8 o'clock in the morning, Sri Ramakrishna went as planned to Balaram Bose's house in Calcutta. It was the day of Dola Yatra. Ram, Manomohan, Rakal, Nitya Gopal, and other devotees were with him. M too came as bidden by the master. Devotees in trance. The devotees and the master sang and danced in a state of divine fervor. Several of them were in an ecstatic mood. Nitya Gopal's chest glowed with the upsurge of emotion, and Rakal lay on the floor in ecstasy, completely unconscious of the world. The master put his hand on Rakal's chest and said, "Peace, be quiet." This was Rakal's first experience of ecstasy. He lived with his father in Calcutta and now and then visited the master at Dakshineshwar. About this time, he had studied a short while in Vidyasagar school at Shampur. When the music was over, the devotees sat down for their meal. Balaram stood there humbly like a servant. Nobody would have taken him for the master of the house. M was still a stranger to the devotees, having met only Narendra at Dakshineshwar. A few days later, M visited the master at Dakshineshwar. It was between 4 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The master and he were sitting on the steps of the Shiva temples. Looking at the temple of Radhakanta across the courtyard, the master went into an ecstatic mood. Since his nephew Hridaye's dismissal from the temple, Sri Ramakrishna had been living without an attendant. On account of his frequent spiritual moods, he could hardly take care of himself. The lack of an attendant caused him great inconvenience. And next topic, bigotry condemned. Sri Ramakrishna was talking to Kali, the divine mother of the universe. He said, "Mother, everyone says, my watch alone is right. The Christians, the Brahmos, the Hindus, the Muslims all say, my religion alone is true. But mother, the fact is that nobody's watch is right. Who can truly understand thee? But if a man prays to thee with a yearning heart, he can reach thee through thy grace by any path. Mother, show me sometime how the Christians pray to thee in their churches. But mother, what will people say if I go in? Suppose they make a fuss. Suppose they don't allow me to enter the Kali temple again. Well then, show me the Christian worship from the door of the church." Next little subtopic is the mind's inability to comprehend God. Another day, the master was seated on the small couch in his room with his usual beaming countenance. M arrived with Kali Krishna, who did not know where his friend M was taking him. He had only been told, "If you want to see a grog shop, then come with me. You will see a huge jar of wine there." M related this to Sri Ramakrishna, who laughed about it. The master said, "The bliss of worship and communion with God is the true wine, the wine of ecstatic love. The goal of human love is to love God. Bhakti is the one essential thing. To know God through jnana and reasoning is extremely difficult."
I think the word is the goal is of human life. Isn't that
Yeah, the goal of human life is to love God. You're right.
okay?
Or maybe I missed one. Bhakti is the one essential thing. To know God through jnana and reasoning is extremely difficult. Then the master sang, "Who is there that can understand what Mother Kali is? Even the 6 darshanas are powerless to reveal her." The master said again, "The one goal of life is to cultivate love for God. The love that the milkmaids, the milkmen, and the cowherd boys of Vrindavan felt for Krishna. When Krishna went away to Mathura, the cowherds roamed about weeping bitterly because of their separation from him." Saying this, the master sang with his eyes turned upward. "Just now I saw a youthful cowherd with a young calf in his arms. There he stood, by one hand holding the branch of a young tree. 'Where are you, brother Kanai?' he cried, but Kanai scarcely could he utter. Ka was as much as he could say. He cried, 'Where are you, brother?' and his eyes were filled with tears." When M heard this song of the master's, laden with love, his eyes were moist with tears. April 2nd, 1882, Master's visit to...
This Rasa Leela,
Okay.
this time of Sri Krishna in Vrindavan with the cowherd girls and boys, was one of the very favorite episodes of a prior incarnation's life. And Sri Ramakrishna could always be roused to the highest form of devotional fervor by thinking about, and particularly by singing about, that time of the Rasa Lila, the sweet play of the Lord. So you can read about, of course, the Rasa Lila in many books. And this cowherd boy holding the calf in his arms, of course, was Rakal. Rakal was to become Swami Brahmananda, the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. This was one of the most important of the Master's direct disciples. And of course, Rakal became the first president of the Ramakrishna order and served in that capacity until he passed away of diabetes in 1922, April of 1922. Not 1922. Yeah, 1922. 1922. Right. It was actually Holy Mother left the body July of 1920, and Rakal persisted another 6 months or so, 8 months or so, until April of 2022. Again, a very sweet story, his departure. Anything else from anyone before we go on? Okay, please go ahead, dear.
April 2nd, 1882, Master's visit to Keshav. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in the drawing room of Keshav Chandra Sen's house in Calcutta. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. When Keshav was told of his arrival, he came to the drawing room dressed to go out, for he was about to call on a sick friend. Now he cancelled his plan. The Master said to him, "You have so many things to attend to. Besides, you have to edit a newspaper. You have no time to come to Dakshineshwar. So I have come to see you. When I heard of your illness, I vowed green coconut and sugar to the Divine Mother for your recovery. I said to her, 'Mother, if something happens to Keshav, with whom shall I talk in Calcutta?' Sri Ramakrishna spoke to Pratap and the other Brahmo devotees. M was seated nearby. Pointing to him, the Master said to Keshav, 'Will you please ask him why he doesn't come to Dakshineshwar anymore? He repeatedly tells me he is not attached to his wife and children.' M had been paying visits to the Master for about a month. His absence for a time from Dakshineshwar called forth this remark. Sri Ramakrishna had asked M to write to him if his coming were delayed. Pandit Samachayayi was present. The Brahmo devotees introduced him to Sri Ramakrishna as a scholar well versed in the Vedas and the other scriptures. The Master said, 'Yes, I can see inside him through his eyes, as one can see the objects in a room through the glass door.' Trailokya sang. Suddenly, the Master stood up and went into samadhi, repeating the Mother's name. Coming down a little to the plane of sense consciousness, he danced and sang. 'I drink no ordinary wine, but wine of everlasting bliss, as I repeat my Mother Kali's name. It so intoxicates my mind that people take me to be drunk. First, my Guru gives molasses for the making of the wine. My longing is the ferment to transform it. Knowledge, the maker of the wine, prepares it for me then. And when it is done, my mind imbibes it from the bottle of the mantra, taking the mother's name to make it pure. Drink of this wine, says Ram Prasad, and the four fruits of life are yours. The master looked at Keshav tenderly, as if Keshav were his very own. He seemed to fear that Keshav might belong to someone else. That is to say, that he might become a worldly person. Looking at him, the master sang again. We are afraid to speak, and yet we are afraid to keep still. Our minds, O Radha, half believe that we were about to lose you. We tell you the secret that we know, the secret whereby we ourselves and others, with our help, have passed through many a time of peril. Now it all depends on you. Quoting the last part of the song, he said to Keshav, that is to say, renounce everything and call on God. He alone is real. All else is illusory. Without the realization of God, everything is futile. This is the great secret. The master sat down again and began to converse with the devotees.
Please read that.
The last.
That ends, this is the great secret.
Okay. Quoting the last part of the song, he said to Keshav, that is to say, renounce everything and call on God. He alone is real. All else is illusory. Without the realization of God, everything is futile. This is the great secret.
And if we take that seriously, we will pursue our spiritual studies and our spiritual disciplines with great determination and vigor, because we want to realize, not just hear these words, but know their meaning from deep within, because that's where the truth of the meaning of the words lies. As Swami Vivekananda said over and over, there is nothing for you to learn from outside. You have only to uncover or discover the truth that is already within. And these are the truths that are already within. So this is what prompts us to be so fervent about our spiritual practices and keep them up, even though sometimes it's difficult to do so from day to day to day. Daily practice is what's required. Anything else from anyone?
Hari Om. Actually, this is very interesting. Even in the first sentence, in April 2nd, Ramakrishna went to see, Keshav. That shows God himself went to see him. This is exactly what we were reading in Saturday's class in Divine Grace. Yes. I will take care of you. Yoga Kshamam Vahamyaham. So this is so, right.
And he sang that little song that said, I'm afraid I'm about to lose him.
Yeah.
That he will become a worldly man. And of course he was doing then everything he could to reinforce Keshav's conviction not to become a worldly man. Thank you, Balakrishna. Absolutely right. Anything else from anyone? Okay, dear, please read on.
The master sat down again and began to converse with the devotees. For a while, he listened to a piano recital, enjoying it like a child. Then he was taken to the inner apartments, where he was served with refreshments, and the ladies saluted him. As the master was leaving Keshav's house, the Brahmo devotees accompanied him respectfully to his carriage. Sunday, April 9th, 1882. Sri Ramakrishna was seated with his devotees in the drawing room of Pran Krishna Mukherjee's house in Calcutta. It was between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Since Colonel Vishwanath Ford lived in that neighborhood, the master intended to visit him before going to see Keshav at the Lily Cottage. A number of neighbors and other friends of Pran Krishna had been invited to meet Sri Ramakrishna. They were all eager to hear his words. Next topic, God and his glory and dangers of worldly life. Master, God and his glory. This universe is his glory. People see his glory and forget everything. They do not see God, whose glory is this world. All seek to enjoy woman and gold, and there is too much misery and worry in that. This world is like the whirlpool of the Visalakshi, that is Kali. Once a boat gets into it, there is no hope of its rescue. Again, the world is like a thorny bush. You have hardly freed yourself from one set of thorns before you find yourself entangled in another. Once you enter a labyrinth, you find it very difficult to get out. Living in the world, a man becomes seared, as it were. A devotee. Then what is the way, sir? Prayer and holy company and earnest longing. Master, prayer and the company of holy men. You cannot get rid of an element without the help of a physician. But it's not enough to be in the company of religious people only for a day. You should constantly seek it, for the disease has become chronic. Again, you can't understand the pulse rightly unless you live with a physician. Moving with him constantly, you learn to distinguish between the pulse of phlegm and the pulse of bile. Devotee, what is the good of holy company? Master, it begets yearning for God. It begets love of God. Nothing whatsoever is achieved in spiritual life without yearning. By constant living in the company of holy men, the soul becomes restless for God. This yearning is like the state of mind of a man who has someone ill in the family. His mind is in a state of perpetual restlessness, thinking how this sick person may be cured. Or again, one should feel a yearning for God, like the yearning of a man who has lost his job and is wandering from one office to another in search of work. If he is rejected at a certain place, which has no vacancy, he goes there again the next day and inquires, is there a vacancy today? There is another way, earnestly praying to God. God is our very own. We should say to him, O God, what is thy nature? Reveal thyself to me. Thou must show thyself to me, for why else hast thou created me? Some Sikh devotees.
Repeat those words again.
Okay. There is another way, earnestly praying to God. God is our very own. We should say to him, O God, what is thy nature? Reveal thyself to me. Thou must show thyself to me. For why else hast thou created me?
There's the question.
Yeah.
If not, if we haven't been created to know God, then why have we been created? Just to go through this life, to be born, get old, and die? No, that can't be it. That's too meaningless. That's too futile. So there must be some deeper meaning. Well, the Master has said it again here. Anything else from anyone about any of that?
Looks like he's slowly introducing some Jnana Yoga.
He's slowly doing what again?
Introducing Jnana Yoga.
Well, yes, definitely. That's always behind.
Yeah.
But he has in front bhakti. Always the bhakti in front. Always the yearning. Always the praying. You know, the bhakta yearns and prays. The jnani participates in none of that. So, but you're right. As Vivekananda is said of Sri Ramakrishna, he's all bhakta on the outside and all jnani on the inside. Thank you, Balakrishna. Anything else from anyone?
An observation maybe that I may or may not be right about, but out of the four yogas, it seems like Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga are the two that most are emphasized in these teachings. Am I somewhere close to being right about that?
Right. Of course, Raja Yoga or meditation, the practice of meditation, is emphasized. Sri Ramakrishna doesn't teach so much karma yoga. He leaves that to the Bhagavad Gita. But definitely there is the full frontal presentation and recommendation of Bhakti Yoga as the path for this age. But without discrimination and renunciation, viveka and vairagya, which are the fundamental principles of Jnana Yoga, then it's very difficult for us to parse apart the world of sense pleasures and sense experiences and the Atman, which is what we, of course, ultimately must do. We must know the difference. Without condemning the one, we celebrate the other.
But Vivekananda's teachings are full of karma yoga.
Oh, well, yes. Vivekananda, of course, came to his teachings that we're most familiar with, were delivered here in the West. And he taught all four yogas, but emphatically, he was teaching us karma yoga. But what does he say karma yoga is? He says karma yoga is selflessness. He said anything you do for yourself is not religion. Anything you do for others selflessly, that is religion. So, yes, Vivekananda taught. But, he was sent as an emissary on a mission to the West to present us with all four yogas. But if you'll notice, the Ramakrishna order Swamis, if they give you instruction, if they give you diksha, they give you bhakti instruction. Of course, there's some jnana, discrimination, and renunciation embedded in it. But the basic message is be devoted to God in your heart.
I'll say,
You go ahead.
see, Balakrishna ji, Swamiji, when he came, India was under foreign rule. There were several God-realized souls sitting under trees and in the caves. And it was not much helping the society. Education, illiteracy or blind faith, discrimination, like we were talking about, not letting people in the houses and whatnot. And now if you look at the 1,000 or million years of time frame, this is nothing, it just goes up and down. But the purpose he came for that period of time, maybe 500 years, 1,000 years, 15 years, 1,500 years, whatever, he had a purpose. And so he said that let's do karma yoga. And that's what it is that all these God-realized souls, you come down and you teach people of equality and education and importance of not going through the blind faith, and then help each other and become good. And he had never hatred for any particular race, so he came in the West and he had equal amount of disciples, which is very amazing, which he faced a lot of discrimination when he was traveling in India, even after he became famous. So we have to look at all the spectrum of the things and then realize that was his purpose. But like Brother Shankara said, in the West, he spoke about all different things. And then if you go and stay in the monk if you had been a monk and living with, as a training monk, who were living with Swamiji, he would teach you meditation. And he would also teach you karma yoga, but also bhakti yoga and whatnot, everything. And if you read the life of direct disciples and their reminiscences, they have mentioned this, that he was quite, and all the monks, like Brother Shankara said, in the private, they will always teach you all the four. But I do agree that he did emphasis more on karma yoga and then obviously meditation also. I think because he was a monk, the Raj Yoga part was little closer to his heart. But that's my understanding.
Thank you, Shailesh. Very nicely said.
Makes sense.
Anything else from anyone? All right, please read on, dear.
Some Sikh devotees once said to me, God is full of compassion. I said, but why should we call him compassionate? He is our creator. What is there to be wondered at if he is kind to us? Parents bring up their children. Do you call that an act of kindness? They must act that way. Therefore, we should force our demands on God. He is our father and mother, isn't he? If the son demands his patrimony and gives up food and drink in order to enforce his demand, then the parents hand his share over to him 3 years before the legal time. Or when the child demands some pies from his mother and says over and over again, Mother, give him a couple of pies. I beg you on my knees. Then the mother, seeing his earnestness and unable to bear it anymore, tosses the money to him. The pies is like a penny. Jeff, just trying to make it more. Pies, we used to call pies. It's a penny here.
Thank you.
There is another benefit from holy company. It helps one cultivate discrimination between the real and the unreal. God alone is the real, that is to say, the eternal substance, and the world is unreal, that is to say, transitory. As soon as a man finds his mind wandering away to the unreal, he should apply discrimination.
Please read those words again.
Yes.
Definition.
There is There is another benefit from holy company. It helps one cultivate discrimination between the real and the unreal. God alone is the real, that is to say, the eternal substance,
Eternal substance.
and the world is unreal, that is to say, transitory. As soon as a man finds his mind wandering away to the unreal, he should apply discrimination. The moment an elephant stretches out its trunk to eat a plantain tree in a neighbor's garden, it gets a blow from the iron goad of the dragon.
You want something?
No. The moment an elephant stretches out its trunk to eat a plantain tree in a neighbor's garden, it gets a blow from the iron goad of the driver. Next, explanation of evil. A neighbor. Why does a man have sinful tendencies? Master, in God's creation, there are all sorts of things. He has created bad men as well as good men. It is He who gives us good tendencies, and it is He again who gives us evil tendencies. Neighbor, in that case, we aren't responsible for our sinful actions, are we? Master, sin begets its own result. This is God's law. Won't you burn our tongue if you chew a chili? In his youth, Mathur led a rather fast life, so he suffered from various diseases before his death. One may not realize this in youth. I have looked into the hearth in the kitchen of the Kali temple when logs are being burnt. At first, the wet wood burns rather well. It doesn't seem then that it contains much moisture. But when the wood is sufficiently burnt, all the moisture runs back to one end. At last, water squirts from the fuel and puts out the fire. So one should be careful about anger, passion, and greed. Take, for instance, the case of Hanuman. In a fit of anger, he burnt Ceylon. That's Sri Lanka. At last, he remembered that Sita was living in the Ashoka grove. Then he began to tremble lest the fire should injure her. Neighbor, why has God created wicked people? Master, that is his will, his play. In his Maya, there exists avidya as well as vidya. Darkness is needed too. It reveals all the more the glory of light. There's no doubt that anger, lust, and greed are evils. Why then has God created them? In order to create saints. A man becomes a saint by conquering the senses. Is there anything impossible for a man who has subdued his passions? He can even realize God through his grace. Again, see how his whole play of creation is perpetuated through lust. Wicked people are needed too. At one time, the tenants of an estate became unruly. The landlord had to send Golak Chaudhary, who was a ruffian. He was such a harsh administrator that the tenants trembled at the very mention of his name. There is need of everything. Once Sita said to her husband, Rama, it would be grand if every house in Ayodhya were a mansion. I find many houses old and dilapidated. But my dear, said Rama, if all the houses were beautiful ones, what would the masons do? Laughter. God has created all kinds of things. He has created good trees, the poisonous plants, and weeds as well. Among the animals, there are good, bad, and all kinds of creatures, tigers, lions, snakes, and so on. And the next topic would be washing away the heart's impurities with tears.
Hold on just 1 minute.
Please go on, Brother Shan.
From what was just read,
Very nice.
caught your attention and gives rise to a remark or a concern or a question. So much was said, so much definition.
Brother, the first sentence in that paragraph is, there is need of everything. That says so much.
It is.
Yes, it does. And I'm glad that caught your attention. God did not create anything by accident. It's all by design. It's all part of this mad Leela, this mad play of the Lord. Sri Ramakrishna says in some places that Kali is just drunk on the wine of her own devising, and is creating what we see out of this inebriation. There is need of everything. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. Well caught and well said. Anything else from anyone?
Well, they also, Sri Ramakrishna said, see, you have to have these wicked people, that is in order to create saints. So, this is to teach both avidya maya and vidya maya, so that we we move from avidya to vidya. So, he wants every one of us to become a saint.
Yes. And Valmiki,
Yes.
the recorder of the Ramayana, was a murderer
Yes.
before he was a highwayman and a murderer before he became Valmiki, the recorder of the life and adventures of Rama. And he's not the only one in the annals of, if we look to St. Paul in the Christian tradition, St. Paul, when he was still Saul of Tarsus, was dragging Jews who had converted to Christianity before a tribunal and having them executed. And Christ stopped him one time when he was on his way to Damascus to do such deeds and said, Saul, why kickest thou against the pricks? Why do you kick against the cactus? And Saul fell to his knees and says, who is speaking to me? And Christ said, you know. And so he transformed him into the St. Paul that we know. Now you may agree or disagree with St. Paul's writings, but he certainly became saintly and practiced a discrimination between the real and the unreal, and renunciation of the unreal. So these are this saintliness. It isn't just something that comes to somebody who's been a sweetheart all their life. Anything else from anyone?
This is we are almost, time is out, Brother Shankara. It's 8:30 your time.
All right, very good.
Stop right here and then pick up next week.
All right. But somebody else was going to say something.
I was just going to say it's the world of duality that we're in. You have to have darkness to have light. You have to have wicked people to have saints. It's all part of the duality.
Yes.
Very true.
And if you study the life of Girish Ghosh, who was one of the masters, master created a saint out of a degenerate. It's an amazing thing. All right, so thank you for being mindful of the time, Ima.
Sure, Brother Shankara. Thank you.
We'll close as we always do. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we go forward knowing that the mother and father that introduces the prayer with which we start these sessions, that mother and father is holding you securely in their loving and protective embrace. Hari Om Tat Sat. May it be so. And may you be well and in bright spirits until tomorrow night when we have our class on realizing God. And Haima pointed out that she may or may not be able to read tomorrow night, so we may need an alternate reader because she's having some dental work done that may leave her somewhat incapacitated tomorrow evening. So until tomorrow evening at 7:30, thank you all for coming. It's always
Thank you, brother.
All right. A great good night to you all.
Good night, everyone.